Greetings all, thedvsmonkey here. Today is a special day. It's a day that all my shit came in, and it wasn't supposed to be here this soon. What does that mean for you? That means that you finally get to know if all this stuff works together. Without further ado, here we go. Prior to walking out and shooting this, I took the entire setup apart, grabbed the new stuff as well, and I weighed everything just to see what each individual piece weighed in at and what it came up to in the final altogether setup. So here's what I found. For those of you who don't give a shit what each individual piece weighs and all that kind of stuff, and you just want to know if all this crap works together, I'm telling you right now, it does. Here's what I got. I got the Sony a6600. It has a Peak Design square Arca type plate on the bottom. I replaced the full cold shoe or hot shoe, however the hell you want to put it, shoe relocator from SmallRig, and I got just one side. So I got a left side relocator because I don't use both of the new cold shoes because I only put the Rode Wireless Go on here or my Movo VXR10. I don't need another cold shoe. So I got that, and then I have a Sony 10-18 f4 OSS lens, and I have a B+W UV MRC nano coated filter on the lens. I put those on every lens, period. I don't give a shit. I don't want to hear, oh, but it degrades the picture, but what the fuck ever. Dude, I put a $30 filter on there to save an $800 lens, you know? I mean, come on. I don't use lens hoods because the lens hoods usually expand up into the screen on this camera, and I don't give a shit about the lens hood anyways. So that's that. Now I also got a B+W ND filter, and I weighed that as well, not on the lens, but I weighed it separately. When you add all that shit up and you put it all on here on this Zhiyun Crane M2, regardless of what it weighs, regardless of what the limits are on this gimbal, I'm telling you, it works. Yesterday, I had everything except for the filter. When I got the filter today, I kept everything the way that it was. So it had the double cold shoe relocation plate thingy from SmallRig, in addition to the Rode Wireless Go, in addition to the Peak plate and the lens with the UV filter on it. And I still put it on this Crane M2, and I walked around and it worked, and there were no problems. Of course, you have to balance it correctly. That's gonna make a big difference. If you just jam it on there, obviously you're gonna work your motors and you might fuck something up. But if you put it on there exactly so that it is completely balanced, as soon as it turns on, boom, it's level, it stays level. I never hear the motors working. I never feel them working, and it keeps everything steady. Fucking A, yay. I was very worried about that because I knew that I was gonna use this 10-18, or that I wanted to use the 10-18 as my main lens, period, vlogging or otherwise. And I knew that it was heavy and that it would, you know, just by looking up everything and adding it up, it goes way above what the upper limit is supposed to be on this Crane M2. Now I think, and I've read it a couple different places, I'm fairly certain that the Crane M2's upper weight limit is 780 grams. The way this is right now, with the single cold shoe relocator and all the shit that I've already described, it comes up to 719 grams. I'm sorry, 819 grams, not 700. 819 grams, which is 40 grams over what it's supposed to be. Now, if you use the double cold shoe that I had on here originally, that added another 10. It's twice as heavy, obviously. It's got twice as much metal. So it came up to 829 grams, and it still worked. So you've got some play there. Given that I removed, or I don't use the ND filter all the time, put the ND filter on there is gonna tip it a little bit forward. Again, I think if you balance it properly, it'll work just fine. Now here I am, it's a, you know, pretty much a perfect blue sky. It's the end of the day. It's 20 to 6. I'm on the East Coast. The sun's gonna be out for another couple hours. And as you can see, I don't have an ND filter on here. I do have this set up with shutter priority. I'm at 1/50th. It switches back and forth, but it's on an ISO 100 and currently at f16. And this is the picture that you get. Now I'm starting to get into the spot where there's all these fucking trees. So I'm gonna go in and out of the shade and the sun, and it's gonna wreak havoc with this freaking auto exposure that I have locked when I got in the sun. So I'll dick around with that and annoy you for those of you that keep track of it. This is working perfectly. I'm walking. I'm not trying to do the cherry in my butt crack walk. I'm not doing anything particular. I keep switching hands because I am getting a knot in my back. Well, the knot's always there. It's just letting me know that it's there a little bit more than usual because I'm carrying this. This is not as light of a setup, duh, as the 16-50 kit lens. So I would definitely say this is a success. How long is it taking me to get to this point where, in my mind, for what I do, I now have the perfect camera setup for filming? Well, as far as I'm concerned, for stills too, because my A7 III is awesome. Here we go. I will state it all out again. I have a Sony a6600 with a Sony 10-18 f4 OSS lens. It has a black and white UV filter on it, or I mean a B+W UV filter on it. I'm using the Rode Wireless Go, and that is slid into a SmallRig hot shoe relocator or cold shoe relocator for a left side. You can get one that's for a left side or a right side, or one that has both sides. I have the one that has both sides, and I have confirmed that that works as well. And then I got that Peak Design Arca type plate on the bottom. Now, I did buy the SmallRig quick adapter so that it takes an Arca type adapter and you don't have to, have an adapter on your camera or a plate on your camera that doesn't work with anything else and blah, 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 blah. So I don't know, that might change the weight a little bit on here. I don't know that it's that much different from the original one that comes in there and then you got to screw into your camera from the bottom. But the Monkey don't do that. All I do is use these Peak Design plates because then I can put the cameras on any of my tripods or grips or any of that kind of stuff. So this works just right. I'm walking. I'm a walking vlogger. I'm not running. I'm not climbing a mountain. I'm not fucking doing parkour or any of that shit. I'm just doing a normal walking, talking head vlog, and it works for me. It would be no different if I were down on the boardwalk and I were swinging the camera around like so. It does it. There isn't any problem. There's no hesitation. There's no whirring motors. It works just fine. And I will say, I love the battery life on this Zhiyun Crane M2. I used it yesterday because I did actually do a bunch of filming yesterday when I got the lens, even though I didn't have anything else at the time. But I just wanted to see that if it worked with the way that it was set up yesterday. And then I'd have to battle whether or not I wanted to put a UV filter on it or, all that other shit. So yeah, I was digging around with this thing yesterday and pretty much today on and off. So, I used it for at least 45 minutes of my walk yesterday, plus 15 minutes of dicking around, trying to get everything set up and this, that, and the other thing. Same thing today. I used it several different times, rebalancing it and everything for the different setups. And now I'll go, and it'll be like another 45-minute walk. All that said, like it only just now lost a bar as far as the power, the battery, like showing the battery life. So this thing has an amazing battery life. I mean, I've used them all day before, on and off, turning it on, turning it off, filming down on the boardwalk, going here, going there, and it's worked just fine. I've never run out of battery. So the battery life is excellent on this Crane M2. It isn't overworking, even with this heavier lens, and it works like a champ. And I think I've mentioned this before, I did go into the settings on the Crane M2 and I set the motors to high. They've been on high since I got it, just so that I didn't have to dick around with anything. I don't think that that's using any more power. If it is using more power and draining the battery, it isn't affecting me because I've got plenty of battery in this thing to do whatever it is that I want to do, or anything that I've done so far. I now have the perfect setup for me for filming. I know that Sony's image stabilization sucks, so I got around that by buying a Crane M2, and I am not disappointed. 100% recommended. The kit lens, 16-50 kit lens, works like a champ. Highly recommended. A6600, perhaps my favorite camera. Definitely my favorite filming camera. Highly recommended. Rode Wireless Go, no problems. Excellent battery life. Amazing sound. Totally recommended. And as far as lenses go, I use 3 lenses on this camera, or I will now. 10-18 f4 OSS. I've only had it for a day. Can already tell you, highly recommended. My 18-105 f4 OSS, highly recommended. 16-50, 3.5 to 5.6, also OSS, highly recommended. And of course, Zhiyun Crane M2, fuck yeah, highly recommended. And that's it, kids. You heard it here. This is the setup that'll work. If you have any questions for me, don't hesitate to ask. I will answer them to the best of my ability. But again, when the bottom line gets to it, the Crane M2 does work with an A6600 with a 10-18 lens on it and a Rode Wireless Go attached to it. That's all I can attest to. Remember, I can only guarantee up to 829 grams for this gimbal to work. So if you've got a combination that adds up to that or lower, you shouldn't have any problems, provided you properly balance it. That's all I got for you today, kids. Thanks for joining me. Like, subscribe, and all that shit. And remember, kids, forward and up.